Welcome to another video in the last chapter of the Anglo-Zulu War, the Battle of Ulundi. Also, quick disclaimer, my dog is going fucking apeshit, so if you're a lot of barking, that's the dog's fault, not mine. On the 2nd of April 1879, a British column under the command of Lord Chelmsford inflicted a heavy defeat on the Zulus at Gingindlovu, that word, where around 1,000 Zulus lay dead. This occurred while he was trying to make his way to relieve Colonel Charles Pearson's column, which was under siege at the fortified camp of Eshowe. After relieving Eshowe and pushing back the Zulus, Chelmsford determined that it wasn't important to hold on to this position, so he evacuated and destroyed the camp. By the end of the month, most of the Chelmsford men were back in the town, where he began preparing for a second and final invasion into Zululand. With this organised retreat, it gave the appearance that the Zulus had pushed back the Brits out of Zululand, even if only superficial, but the Battle of Kambula and Gingindlovu had caused heavy casualties on the Zulus with very little losses on the British side. And at the same time, Sir Garrett Wolseley and the Ashanti Ring were on their way to replace Lord Chelmsford's command, but Chelmsford didn't want to give up his position. In the base move of Nuh-uh, he launched another invasion into Zululand at the end of May 1879 to try and redeem himself and salvage the situation, while also ignoring all of King Cetshwayo's envoys attempting to negotiate peace. The reinforced invasion force of around 25,000 British soldiers, where only a portion of that force would take part in the actual final Battle of Ulundi, made steady progress despite logistical concerns and constant skirmishing with Zulu forces. Colonel Wood began to march south from Kambula to meet with the main British invasion force, which was crossing the river at Tugela. On the 21st of May 1879, Major General Marshall, leading a cavalry brigade, advanced to isandlwana to undertake the grim task of burying the dead British soldiers. By early June, the advance of the main force finally begun. As Chelmsford sat in his tent awaiting orders, a staff officer burst in and told him that the French prince had died at the hands of the Zulus. Now, this might be absolutely confusing for anyone who doesn't know the context, and don't worry, I'll give it. In 1871, Emperor Napoleon III of France was deposed and later died in exile in England. His widow, Empress Eugenie, became a close friend of Queen Victoria. Napoleon's only son, Louis Napoleon, attended the Royal Military College at Woolwich. Through the Queen's intercession, the Prince Imperial was permitted to accompany the army to Natal and join Chelmsford's column. While on patrol, the Prince Imperial was caught off guard and killed by the Zulus. His death caused an outcry in France. Lieutenant Carey of the 98th Regiment was court-martialled, but he was later acquitted. Yes, Napoleon Bonaparte's great-nephew died in the Anglo-Zulu War, fighting for the British. Colonel Wood's column, renamed by Chelmsford as the Flying Column, and the 2nd Division met and marched towards Ulundi in parallel. On the 5th of June 1879, Buller's irregular horsemen encountered a strong Zulu force. After exchanges of fire, it became clear that the Zulus would not give ground, and Buller withdrew. The 17th Lancers came up and, keen to establish themselves, rode down the valley looking for the Zulus. They came under heavy fire, and their adjutant was shot and killed. The mounted forces returned to camp, where the death of the officer adversely affected the morale of the column. On the 6th of June 1879, a picket caused a false alarm, and the British troops rushed to take position in the entrenched area of the camp. Fire was given, and some 1,200 rounds were discharged without a target before the troops could be brought under control. The incident was due to the nervousness and fear of these inexperienced troops and their fear of the Zulus. General Sir Garrett Wolseley arrived in Cape Town on the 28th of June 1879 and cabled Chelmsford, who replied that his two columns were within 17 miles of the Royal Corral of Ulundi, Mogd. On the 30th of June, the British Line Column and the 2nd Division advanced into the valley of the White Malofsey River towards Ulundi. Camp was established by the river, and on the 3rd of July, Colonel Buller took his mounted men across the river to recon the Zulu position. The Zulus were waiting in ambush, and Buller's forces only narrowly escaped annihilation. During that night, the British troops were forced to listen to Zulu war songs. For some, this was an interesting cultural experience. For most, it was terrifying. Next day, Chelmsford took the majority of his force who numbered around 5,000 strong, crossed the river, advancing towards the Zulu Corral. The British troops moved in a cumbersome hollow square with mounted troops covering each side in the rear. Just before 9 AM, the Zulus attacked the hollow square on all four sides. As the attack began, the British mounted troops moved inside the square. The fire from the packed British regiment, the artillery and the Gatling guns were overwhelming. It was the largest concentration of British military might in South Africa to that date. Zulu survivors and prisoners stated that after the battle, they were overwhelmed by the noise of the firing, let alone the impact of the bullets, and stunned by the size of the British force. After about 45 minutes of intense fighting, the Zulus began to falter. At this point, the 17th Lancers passed out of the back of the square and charged. The impact of this charge broke up what was left of the Zulu formation, and the Zulu army dissolved into flight, pursued by the Lancers and the mounted irregular units of Chelmsford's column. The massacre of fleeing Zulus seen at Kambula in Gingindlovu was repeated and multiplied several times. It was the end of the Zulu army and the war. Although fighting continued on small scale for some weeks, as soon as the battle was over, Chelmsford ordered his troops to destroy the royal corral of Ulundi. And the casualties of the battle on the British side were 3 officers and 79 men, while the Zulus were said to be around 1,500. After the battle, King Eshowe was hunted down and captured in the Gome forest in August that year. The Zulu monarchy and local chieftains were suppressed, and Zululand was divided into autonomous regions. Eshowe's possessions were seized, and he was exiled to Robben Island in Cape Town and later to London. In this absence, civil war ensued. In 1883, the British attempted to restore order by returning Eshowe to the throne. However, his powers were now greatly reduced, and he died the following year. In 1887, Zululand was declared British territory and finally annexed to Natal 10 years later. And that sums up a very simplified version of the Anglo-Zulu War. This was my first attempt at covering a full war, if you don't count my Battle of Zanzibar video, because that was, the Anglo-Zanzibar War was really short, and probably doesn't count in the same regard as a full war video. This is going to be like 40 minutes long. I've posted separate parts, but I'm going to do the overall part for, more views and for more neatness and overall comprehension. I'm probably going to do more videos of Zulus before the war, because that's even more interesting. But for now, I'm going to focus on some smaller things like Darien Scheme and the Act of Union in the following weeks, and some more Scottish stuff. But please, give me your reviews on how I did and anything that I should change. My name is Scottish Logs, and thank you for watching.
That's my job. That's my job. That's my job.